I have just a quick word before the interview with Wes Mcclain begins. I offered both Rob Smith, who is a write-in candidate. You'll have to write his name in if you want to vote for him. Wes Mcclain, his name will be on the ballot. These are two candidates who are running for the Anderson County, Kansas sheriff position. They were offered an interview. The questions were exactly the same. Rob Smith rejected that and canceled his interview. Wes Mcclain did do the interview, and I also asked that they read and sign a constitutional stance that came from the Constitutional Sheriff and Peace Officers Association website. Rob Smith also rejected that document and said it was political and he wouldn't sign it. Wes Mcclain has announced to me that he does agree with the document and will sign it. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Verity Seeker, and I'm your host, Mark Powls, and our guest today is Wes Mcclain, candidate for Anderson County, Kansas Sheriff. And the election is on November 5th, Tuesday. The polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So, Wes, thanks a lot for coming on the Verity Seeker podcast.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for offering it.
Well, we've got a collection of questions that I've gathered from online sources, people locally here, and there's a few that are from me personally. And what we're going to try to do is we're going to go down this list and find out what you have to say about them, and we'll see how it goes.
Well, they're good. They're all good questions because I wanted to make sure I answered them all thoroughly as best as I could. So, I made notes.
Yeah, this guy has 8 pages of notes here. So he's taking this very seriously, and that's a good thing. Okay, but to start out, why don't you take about 3 minutes? I don't have a clock or anything. I'm not going to count, but 3 minutes or less. Okay. Tell us about yourself.
So I grew up in Lynn County, Lacey, Kansas, where I grew up at. I got 3 brothers, 2 sisters. So pretty good sized family. My sisters had a different father, or same father, different mother. Sorry. Yeah. So anyway, grew up on 200 acres on a farm. Wow. So we learned the hard work, that it pays off. But I think in 2001-ish, I think it was like right after or right during probably 9/11 is when I got involved into emergency services. So first started out with fire department and went on and got into, I was pretty heavy into that. So went through, got my certifications for firefighter 1 and 2 hazmat awareness. So, and that kind of stemmed into law enforcement and got into, met a lot of great people that way. Got introduced into law enforcement in 2005. Started working in law enforcement in Pleasanton, Kansas. And so from there, so here I've got almost nearly 20 years of law enforcement experience. I've got certifications in several different areas. And the list is pretty long. After 20 years, wow. I try to take pride in getting, I want to be an instructor and everything. I want to learn everything. I want to be the best of the best. Mm-hmm. And so, I never thought that I would say this ever in my life, especially if you asked me when I was in high school, if I'd want to be a teacher. I love to teach. I love teaching law enforcement, and they can be the hardest crowd to teach. Oh, that's for sure. That's because they're all type A personalities, yeah. Right? So, anyways, so I've been doing that for 20 years. I take pride in what I do. My kids, I have 4 children. 3 of them are out of the home already. So
Wow.
And I have a granddaughter. So by my oldest daughter, and her husband, my youngest son, my oldest son, he works for Miami County Sheriff's Office.
Oh, good.
So he's a sheriff, he's a deputy sergeant up there. So then my youngest daughter's in nursing. So then I still got my 15-year-old son at home. So
oh, well, yeah.
I'm proud of all of them. I'm pretty sure the 15-year-old's probably trying to follow dad's footsteps too, but yeah. You know, there's other careers that pay better, but you know, it's still an honorable career. So,
it really is. It's a mission, and I know. You see things that no one else would want to see.
Oh, absolutely.
And be part of, and it's a tough job.
Yeah.
Why are you motivated to become I'm going to say, a constitutional sheriff for Anderson County, Kansas? What motivated you to get into this?
So I see the directions that I've worked for several sheriffs, and I've only worked for sheriff's agency or sheriff's offices. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know, it was probably early in my career that I don't know if it was really me or everybody else that say we're going to groom you. You should be groomed for a sheriff. Even when I was in Linn County, when I was worked for a sheriff's office then, and people saying that. I don't know what they've seen in me, but it's something I've always often prayed, though. It's just not that people see me; they see Jesus working in me.
Yeah.
And so, but I'm motivated to being a constitutional sheriff. So for several different reasons. So, I believe in safeguarding the unalienable citizens or rights of citizens as outlined in the Constitution. I see ourselves as guardians of these rights and ensuring that the government actions do not infringe on our individual freedom. And when it comes to like community protection, I see I'm aimed to build a trust and cooperation between law enforcement and the community. I believe that sheriffs being elected by the people should be the ultimate authority in the jurisdictions and even above the federal government. Good. So when it comes to like due process, I'm committed to making sure that the legal procedures are adhered to and that the individuals are treated fairly under the law. So my personal values, I'm motivated by justice, integrity, and service. I believe as a sheriff, I take role to make a positive impact on society and uphold principles of that what I believe in. So those are some of my key points there, Mark.
Wow, that's darn good. I don't have a follow-up question for that one.
Well, I didn't write that one down if you had follow-up. So,
well, okay. Here's my follow-up question then. This gets down into more of a personal element of what you really are talking about there. What experiences in your life, of course, you've had this background of fire department, law enforcement. I prefer peacekeeping, of course. But,
sure.
Anybody that knows me knows that.
Right.
But what has prepared you for sheriff? Is that more of an administrative part? Is there more administration in it, or is it where you actually become the guardian and the leader over the realm of the protection of these rights?
I think it's both. I mean, obviously you're going to have administration duties because of a sheriff. I mean, you would like it for the Anderson County Sheriff now. There's 40 different individuals that work underneath him. Mm-hmm. So, and we can delegate other jobs to some of these other officers. So, which the sheriff ultimately takes reign over. But I think when it comes to protection and of the citizens and stuff like that, I want to be a part of the community. I think we need to be a part of it. And I'll probably mention this a million times, or maybe not that many during this podcast, but I'm going to mention it a lot of times about community relationships with law enforcement, or however you want to say, peacekeepers. Yeah. So did I answer that all?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. No, that was good. Good. Okay. Well, if elected Anderson County Sheriff, will you serve as a constitutional sheriff or a law enforcement officer? This is really kind of a constitutional / philosophical question that people do think about. Right. Are you going to enforce laws for the protection of laws, or are you going to be more of a constitutional sheriff, which you described earlier?
Right. Yeah, I put in my notes here. It says, like I said, I believe that my response from the first question kind of answers that, what type of sheriff I want to be. So I believe wholeheartedly, without absolutely doubt, that I'll be a constitutional sheriff. I don't want any citizens' rights being infringed upon. As a sheriff, we have that responsibility to make sure that doesn't happen. But I think we also have, when it comes to law enforcement, we have to enforce that some laws, on individuals, because we don't want other citizens' rights being infringed upon. Mm-hmm. I think of when it comes to like that is, I think of the Fourth Amendment. So it's search and seizure. So we're in our homes, just like law enforcement. If we're going to come in your home and we believe that there's obviously something going on, there's a criminal act or whatever, we have to go through and make the necessary steps to have the probable cause of the basis of the crimes or the criteria to build maybe a search warrant. So we'll make a search warrant to infringe upon your Fourth Amendment. I think it's necessary to bring some of those ones to justice. It's just like if somebody does break into your home and steals property, they've infringed upon your personal space. So we need to. I think it's a balance there between it before law and, but we still have to protect those that's broken the law. Have to protect their rights as well. Yeah.
If a sitting U.S. president or Kansas governor orders the confiscation of AR-15s, AK-47s, or any other type of so-called assault weapons, will you stop this from happening? And if so, how would you go about doing so in order to avoid violent conflict with agencies like the ATF, FBI, or any other state or federal agency that may cross into our jurisdiction to enforce, here's the key word, an unconstitutional mandate, EO, or statute? That's an important word.
Right.
If it's not constitutional,
then it's unconstitutional.
Yeah. If it's a constitutional mandate, EO, or a statute, in other words, pursuant to the Constitution,
right,
then the government does have a responsibility to enforce that.
Right.
But in this case, if it's clearly an unconstitutional EO mandate, whatever, which has happened, I'm not supposed to say that. I guess I can mention a year, 2020.
Yeah, I know where you're getting at.
Yeah, go ahead. What do you think about that?
So my answer to that is yes, absolutely.
Good.
So what I've prepared to say is, in order to avoid a violent conflict, we'd have to take our Congress and our men and women, hopefully, to get heard by the Supreme Court of the United States. I will make an effort in any way to avoid a violent conflict and to do it peacefully. But please don't look at our kindness as a weakness. We'll take action as we have to see fit. As it even states in when I was searching up the Constitutional Sheriff and Peace Officers Association.
Oh, yeah. So
I want to do my homework.
Good source.
It even states on the intro, it says sheriffs and police departments has to decide whether to obey the Constitution or the tyranny dictates politicians under drunk power. So what I have to say is, when it comes to that, is I'll stand with the Constitution. So
Good. Where do we find the written and ratified protected right to keep and bear arms for our personal protection in the state of Kansas?
So that's pretty easy. So that's our Second Amendment, and it often refers to the right to bear arms. Mm-hmm. It's one of the 10 Commandments that's formed the Bill of Rights, which was ratified in 1791. by the Congress. So also, the Kansas Constitution also explicitly protects the rights. So in Article 4, Section 4 of the Kansas Bill of Rights, it states, a person has the right to bear arms for the defense of self, family, home, and state, for lawful hunting and recreational use, and for any other lawful purpose.
Yeah.
So,
what will be the most important to you and your deputies in Anderson County, Kansas? A, the enforcement of penalties for violations of codes and other laws that may or may not be pursuant to our written constitutions, or B, enforcing the protection of the individual rights listed in the Kansas Bill of Rights, as well as maintaining the original ordinance of the state of Kansas located in the beginning of the Kansas Constitution. It's an A-B question.
Yeah.
What do you think?
A little trickery on that one.
It's like school.
Right. Okay, so enforcing the protection of the individual rights listed by the Kansas Bill of Rights. So is the most important value should be the most important value for my deputies and I. However, I think there's also a balance between the two. So because just as we can protect our own rights, we don't want the criminals believing that they can go around without consequences for their own actions. So, but first and foremost, I'd say B.
B. and if check me if I'm correct, because it was kind of a tricky question, because there can be a gray area in there. The enforcement of penalties for violations of codes. I didn't explain what kind of codes.
Right.
So if there's a code or ordinance out there that actually does protect the rights of the individual or prevents an infringement,
right,
there you go. Right. I mean, that's a code that's pursuant to our Bill of Rights.
Absolutely.
And that's where you were being careful and going, I don't think I can completely. So good answer.
Well, thank
you. Good
you.
answer.
Thank you.
All right. All right. This is a long one. And this one comes up often because, people just don't want to forget. And I don't.
I think this is the one that took up most of the 8 pages.
Yes. Oh, in your pages or
no, just the question itself.
Yeah, I know it's a paragraph long. I don't know if people can't see this, but it's hilarious. Anyway, I'll try to do this in 3 breaths.
My response is shorter than the question.
Okay, here we go. All right. In 2020, the Kansas governor used an unusual interpretation of an emergency statute to force school closing, mask mandates, injections, and any number of unconstitutional infringements upon the rights of business owners, churches, parents, the paying taxpayer in our public schools, residents, and emergency management. Because I remember fighting a battle one day trying to just keep masks off our faces. And all this had devastating consequences overall. Now, on the federal and the non-American end, we have the UN, the WHO, the CDC, WEF are already openly working toward another engineered crisis in order to trigger the same reaction and response by city, county, state, federal governments. We just don't know what it's going to be this time. I've heard monkeypox and some other things, bird flu, which, people that know what's going on know that that's not as serious as they're trying to make it. Will you, your deputies and staff, be trained and ready to defend the protected rights of the business owners, farmers, ranchers, employees, and residents of Anderson County, Kansas? I'm trying. I have 3 more sentences. When the next hammer falls. If so, what measures would you or will you take to be prepared for any variety of attacks used against us using our federal, state, whatever resources to fulfill those agendas?
That's a lot, Mark.
Yes, I know. But that's what was crossing my computer screen, and I had to put it into words.
So to try to best answer that question, it's a lot. I mean, where I could speak about the training for officers, I know that will be done. So, and if it's something that we're hit blindsided, something we have not trained before, that's just a learning curve. and it's something that we will have to adapt to. And we have some great officers that work for the county, and I think we'll continue to have. It's going to be better. It's going to get greater.
Yeah.
And so, but just like every law enforcement agencies, we don't know what we're going to deal with each and every day. It could be something completely out of the norm that we've ever dealt with, but we adapt and we learn and we overcome it. So my response,
Yeah.
You thought that was my response. So we must address each and every interruption of the social norm as it comes directly as from the source of which it comes. So that's where we overcome it, where we adapt to it. With this said, we must pull together as a whole, as a community. I told you I would use that as a lot because I wholeheartedly believe in community relationships. And so we have to bring together as a whole, as a community, to counter each measure of interruption and weed out the core. I believe the best course of action would be to establish a plan with enough of information given. However, I'm not sure who coined this reference, but I liked it. It's the best laid plan.
Yeah.
So, but it refers to the idea that even the most carefully arranged projects or schemes can often go AWOL or AWAR.
Yeah.
So we overcome, we adapt to it. Then we come together and make a new plan. With that, I cannot avoid any eruptions that we just have to act. We can't sit still. We act in one way, shape, or form with the department, with the community as a whole. So my last part of that is so we don't lay down, and I always tell the guys we don't get tired, but we stand for what is right, and we'll find a way. So that's my response.
Wow, that was very concise and much faster than my paragraph. Okay.
Sometimes when it comes to some of that, I just have references of what I want to say, and then I coined a lot of that other stuff, I think.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's a good way to handle it. Okay, and then the next one. Now, this is an interesting topic here, is the proper relationship between, city police, which are really duty bound to the city government and the city codes and ordinance and so on. They don't have to take an oath, as far as I know, to any constitution, although I know that we have some former military working in the police department that have taken an oath before. And as far as I'm concerned, it should still stick regardless. Sure. But what is the proper role and relationship between city police and a county sheriff, which is duty bound by oath to protect the rights of residents and business owners first? How does that work? Because isn't it true that the county sheriff's department really does have jurisdiction over all of it, all the county?
You're absolutely correct. Yeah. Well, I'd like to first say is that I know that I have a great working relationship with the police department here.
Good.
I'm friends with a lot of them. We work well together, and when we see a job that needs to be done, we work together to get it done. So I let the community know that. So so I kind of broke it down when it comes to the jurisdictional stuff. I'm going to start with the PD. So for the duties of the police department, so their jurisdiction is supposed to operate within the boundaries of the city limits or municipality. Their responsibilities, they focus on ensuring the same as the sheriff's office, enforcing local ordinances, except for some of those the sheriffs don't do, city codes and state laws within their cities. Their duties include patrolling neighborhoods, responding to emergency calls, conducting investigation, and maintaining public order. Their authority, which is by the city police chiefs, are typically appointed by the city officials, and they don't necessarily take an oath, like you stated, which I'm not really unaware of if our officers here have not for the PD. Like I said, I've never worked for a police department, so I don't know. So they take an oath, they not necessarily take an oath to protect the Constitution, although they are bound by the same laws to uphold them. The county sheriff. So here's where the sheriff's office jurisdiction is. The county sheriff's authority is over the entire county. They include both incorporated and unincorporated areas. Our responsibilities are broader range of duties, including managing county jails, servicing courts, providing law enforcement areas that are not covered by city police. They also respond to emergency calls and enforce state law. So our authority as a sheriff, sheriffs are elected officials that take an oath to uphold the Constitution, which includes protecting the rights of residents and the business owners. So in collaboration and relationship with the PD and the sheriff's office, so both city and county sheriffs have concurrent authority within the city limits, meaning they can both investigate crimes within and enforce state laws. So the coordination is effective law enforcement often requires coordination between the two agencies. They may collaborate on investigations, share resources, or support others during emergencies and large-scale incidences. And while city police focus on urban issues or whatever, sheriffs handle broader, wide responsibilities, including rural and county facilities. Mm-hmm. So in essence, while city police and the sheriff's office have distinct roles, their collaboration is crucial for comprehensive law enforcement public safety. Each agency brings unique strengths to the table, ensuring that both city-specific and county-wide needs are met.
Okay.
So,
wow. See, I can tell you right now that most people did not understand or know any of this stuff. So,
glad to educate.
It's an education. What was that?
Glad to educate.
Yeah. See, he is a teacher.
That's right. That's right.
What is your style? Let me just put it simply.
Oh,
can you describe it, or is it describable?
I don't know. I think my style is more probably laid back than any others. So I don't know. I've worked with many officers here in this community and around the state, and I've had a lot of them say that not the bad thing, that they can't believe that I'm undersheriff. And I ask them why, and they say, because we would love to work with somebody like you. You get in, you still are boots on the ground with the guys. So I tell them I'm no better than anybody else. I put my pants on the same way everybody else does, and I'm there to help. I'm employed the same way. I still have an oath to fulfill. I just want to be a part of the team. So I'm still a member of our special response team that's umbrellaed by Coffee County Sheriff's Office. And I told the guys I'm going to stay, maybe not as an operator, but stay as going to training and help and teaching them, because I think that's important. It's just another line of security for our communities. So I got tons more there, Mark, though.
if you've got more, go for it.
Yeah, this one's a little bit lengthy. So
pertaining to that question,
it is. Yeah,
well, let's hear it. Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So so my leadership style for the Anderson County Sheriffs is centered around collaboration and accountability and a continuous improvement. So as an administrator, I think efficiency and transparency are crucial in the administrative process. We utilize modern technology, some that I am not very good at, and I will admit that. I bet I'll get better.
Yeah, that's why we have good people working for us, right?
That's right. Yeah, all the tech-savvy guys, too. We got to have them.
Yeah.
So anyway, mainstream or modern technology to mainstream some operations from record-keeping resources, allocations, regular audio audits, Reviews help maintain high standards, identify areas of improvements, I guess, as well. Some of our SOPs are designed to provide clear guidelines for daily routines. I guess I'm getting into some of this other stuff that pertains to the leadership. But I think the SOPs they need to be regularly updated to reflect the best practices and new insights. We conduct drills and simulations to ensure everyone is familiar with the protocols and can execute them flawlessly if needed. And then, again, community preparedness. So I think community engagement is priority. So we work closely with local organizations and residents, or we can work closely with local organizations and residents to build trust and ensure public safety. Programs like Citizens Academy, something I'm really enthused about doing. It offers community members to deeper understand the operations and foster a collaborative approach to community preparedness. And so when you teach, having like a Citizens Academy, I think you're educating a few, but you know where those people, when they leave, what they're going to do. They're going to educate. So it's fruitful. So everybody's going to grow from it. So we may have somebody in a community that might not be aware of what happens and are frustrated, and they might approach somebody that's been into the Citizens Academy, says, I don't understand why the sheriff's office did this. I'm so upset. And then that person could say, well, wait a minute. This is why they do it, because they understand the operating procedures and policies and the things that go on within the sheriff's. So I think that's really crucial to have for a community. So then you have a pool of those people that you can bring in for a later time and date say, hey, you know our policies, our procedures, and once you come in and help us interview some people or, for employment or whatever, there's somebody you can else.
It's a lot like church discipleship.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have your pastor that teaches the congregation or the elders or deacons, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you've got all of us in the congregation going out wherever we are.
Yeah, spreading the word.
Yeah, and just like I know that's what you do.
Yeah.
You're you don't go around preaching, but you're setting an example.
Right.
And people are going, why does that guy attract me so much? Why do we want this guy to be a sheriff? Well, maybe it's because he's setting a standard that people like.
Right.
So
yeah. Well, I tell you right now that even in front of all these people, I won't deny my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Amen.
So,
well, on YouTube we will be canceled. I'm sure of that. No. Okay. I think you kind of covered this next question in a way. How will you demonstrate integrity, honesty, and personal accountability in your leadership and decision making as a constitutional Anderson County Sheriff? And you mentioned an audit and some other things. Yeah. And working with the community. Would you say that covers that question?
I would say so. So I prioritize. Excuse me, I'm kind of getting my tongue tied here a little bit. Too. So I prioritize integrity, honesty, and personal accountability. I think it's in every aspect of leadership and decision. I think that's important.
How will you train, prioritize, and allocate personnel and resources to address the potential threat of the more organized and violent groups that we're now seeing being formed in like sanctuary cities, for example? Mm-hmm. Our borders being overrun, basically. And I think maybe our U.S. general government is maybe participating in that, especially the DOJ. How do you prepare for that? Well, have you thought about that much? Or I know we're a softer, more isolated target, but eventually it's going to come.
It's going to spread. I mean, just like anything that's if we don't prepare for it, then we're hurting ourselves. I think it's very important to prepare. Whether it'll happen or not, it's better to be prepared than not. So I don't know if I can say areas, which some of the things that's like more recent, like Aurora, Colorado. Mm-hmm. I maybe not say what's going on there, but the things that they're dealing with right now with some of those groups. Then you have, I think, Springfield, Illinois, they're dealing with another thing.
Yes.
So a lot of different types of ethnics, I guess, or communities there. I'm not sure if those communities are part of the safe haven for some of these immigrants that have come in here, but we have to prepare for it. I think addressing the potential threat of an organized or violent groups forming due to illegal immigration involves a multifaceted approach. I think we must make sure our law enforcement personnel are trained and specialized in how to handle organized groups or violent groups. We must allocate more resources and even enhance cooperation between federal, state, and local agencies to ensure coordinated response. Again, I think the community engagement plays another role in reporting suspicious activity and possible prevention. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, that's the problem with an invasion of foreign influence, and I think we're seeing too much of it too quickly.
Yeah, yep, absolutely right.
Anyway, that sounds good. It sounds about the only way a person could answer that, because, like you said earlier, how can you prepare for how can you have a contingency plan that's absolutely perfect to take on something that we've never encountered before?
Right. No agency has.
Yeah.
And I feel for those. I mean, I'd love to offer our assistance in one way, shape, or form, and that's maybe way we may have to handle some of it because, have a mutual aid with our surrounding communities.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, just figuring out a way is what we have to do.
Yeah.
So,
I agree. What if a resident reports a concern about the behavior of one of your deputies? How would you address that concern and ensure a fair and thorough investigation?
So
it's bound to happen at some point, maybe. I don't know.
It has happened before. So I won't get into details about some of that stuff, but it has. So that answer is really pretty simple for me. So all allegations of wrongdoing will be thoroughly investigated and appropriate actions will be taken. I mean, that's the way that sums it up, where I think I won't get into details how things will be handled, but they will be handled. So,
okay, fair enough. All right. Is it the job of the county sheriff's office or the city police, for that matter, to save lives? Or is it the duty of the sheriff's office and its deputies and staff to ensure the right of every resident to a life, the free exercise of their liberties, and the pursuit of their own happiness, historically known to be the right to own and control their own property in its many forms, short of infringement upon others to the same?
Right. Yeah, that's a good one. So I think you're going to like this answer. I put some heart in this one. I put a heart in all of it. So,
yeah, you did. You're
so
thorough. This is good.
I want to say that the First Amendment of the United States Constitution guarantees freedom concerning religion, expression, assembly, and a right to petition. The 14th Amendment further ensures that no state can deprive any person life, liberty, or property without due process. Saving lives. So I've wrote this. While law enforcement officers, including sheriffs and the city police, are trained to respond to emergencies and protect lives, there are no legal duty to protect individuals unless a special relationship. So like if we have somebody in custody. Mm. So it doesn't outline it, but I guarantee you every officer that takes that oath is going to protect that life, or protect anybody's life. I would hope so anyway. So their primary goal is to the public at large, though. So ensuring the rights, law enforcement are also responsible for upholding the constitutional rights, including life, liberty, and property. This involves protecting individuals from harm, ensuring fair treatment, and preventing violations of the rights. So in essence, both the county sheriff's office and the city police strive to balance immediate public safety with a broader goal of safeguarding constitutional rights. I think their goals are preliminary, ensuring a comprehensive approach to law enforcement and the community's well-being.
There are many laws, codes, local ordinances that are actually, there are some violations of the Kansas ordinance specifically. I don't know if you've ever read that in the Kansas Constitution, but there are ordinances out there and codes, at least at the city level, that I know of that are in direct violation of it. And I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying that they're not aware of it, or it's happened over many, 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 many years of
Sure.
people being elected into like a city commission or a county commission, and they just didn't know. Because
Sure.
I don't think they always read our Constitution. They just take the oath and then
Right.
get up in their chair and do things.
Correct.
If you claim to be a constitutional sheriff serving the residents, and this is actually going to be difficult to answer, I think anyway, because of the philosophical part of it and the constitutional part of it. Serving the residents of Anderson County, Kansas, wouldn't it be more accurate to be referred to first? This may not be so hard. I wrote this. To be referred to as a peacekeeping force rather than a law enforcement center. In other words, isn't the objective to promote peace and prosperity by protecting the individual rights listed in the Kansas Bill of Rights and by holding violators accountable for their infringements upon these rights, whether it be by government or residents, rather than punishing residents for violating the codes, ordinance, and laws where there is no infringement to others, but rather a punishment for the protection of the code, ordinance, or law itself? I don't know if that made any sense, but it is a question that's out there. And, it's almost like sometimes we have these laws that have been on the books forever. And, you and I both know that there's like layer upon layer from the state level and even the local level that they've just piled on. And I'm literally a code violator on a daily basis, and I don't even know it.
Right. I'm right there with you.
So now I wish they would all go through and audit all the codes here locally, at the city and county level, and go, okay, Constitution over here, codes here. Let's go through. It'd take a long time, I'm sure, because of the pile, Right. But it'd be nice for them to sift all those out so even the public knows whether they're in violation of a code or not. And it's getting very complicated.
Yeah.
But what's your opinion on this? Wouldn't it be better to be a peacekeeper, protecting peace and prosperity in the Constitution, or do you like that name, law enforcement officer?
I know. So I've always been more of a peacemaker, I guess. So it's even as a kid, I'll be first and foremost honest with you. I'll tell you, I hate bullies, and so I will give a bully, and that's people I deal with in law enforcement on basis. I will give them two options, and if I get the three, that's probably not good.
Yeah.
So now, Mark, because I love wrestling. I do some jiu-jitsu, and
Yeah.
I have a lot of defense tactic stuff. So I love to wrestle. I love to fight. I'm good at it. I don't like hurting nobody, but I will do what I need to do to control a situation. But like I said, 9 times out of 10, I can talk somebody down from it. So I had to break down your question a little bit. So it was. So when it comes to peacekeepers and stuff like that, before I address that, hit you up on their code stuff and in your constitutions. I know with the city having codes and stuff like that, I think there are some that are or ordinances that are important. Mm-hmm. I think you have to take them with a grain of salt. I mean, a little bit. So if we have somebody that you have like you, for instance, you have a nice yard, your upkeep, everything's in order, it's clean and that's right. But then if you have somebody that's has a junkyard next door to you, mm-hmm. then I think that's beneficial, part of an ordinance that we need to have. Mm-hmm. I just look at it that way on some of those codes or ordinances.
And actually, if I'll give you an example that'll support your comment. We try. We've got 3 chickens in the yard and a couple of cats. So there's like poop all over inside our fence.
Yeah. That's just dinner walking around, not the cats.
Yeah. But like a neighbor, like you'd mentioned, say the trash is not stowed away like the city of Garnett asks every resident to do, bagged up.
Yeah.
And maybe put in a barrel.
Yeah.
So when the wind blows, it's not blowing everything into your yard or through the alley or against your fence. This actually happens and has happened for years. That's actually an infringement upon your neighbor. That supports your comment there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we do. It's always an infringement on somebody else if we're not careful. So people need to be aware of that. So
that's right.
Anyway, we're getting close to the end, but go ahead.
So look,
I interrupted you. So
I still have your question here. Before I answer that question, I'm going to read you a little something that I always keep. It's my footnote of my emails that I send out.
Oh, okay.
And so, everybody across the state gets it or whatever. But it's Scripture. It's Romans 13:4. It says the authorities of God's servants sent out for good, but if you are doing wrong, of course you should be afraid, for they shall have the power to punish you. They are the servants of God. They are God's servants, sent for the very purpose of punishing those who are doing the wrong. So I take that as, you don't have to fear law enforcement unless you're doing something wrong. Mm-hmm. And I think 9 times out of 10, somebody that's fearing law enforcement is because they did something wrong. And that's why they have a strong hate for them. Mm-hmm. So anyways, when it comes to your peacekeeping, I think this is what I found. So I did Google some of the stuff, this part up. So it typically refers to military units being deployed for maintaining peace and security in the conflict zones. These forces operate under principles such as consent of parties involved in impartiality, non-use of force except for in self-defense or defense of the mandate. Their primary goal is to prevent conflict and maintain peace rather than enforce laws. Mm-hmm. So, law enforcement center, on the other hand, is usually refers to local and national agencies focused on enforcing laws, maintaining public order, ensuring public safety. The center's more about upholding the legal system and responsibility of criminal activities within a specific jurisdiction. So I think if the primary mission is maintain peace in a conflict zone with consent or impartiality, then yes, Peacekeeper Force would be more accurate. If we're focused on enforcing laws and maintaining order with community or country, then law enforcement. I would appreciate both terms, to tell you the truth. However, I think law enforcement should promote peace and prosperity. Mm-hmm. But you do raise an important point about the balance between protecting individuals' rights and enforcing laws. So the Kansas Bill of Rights indeed emphasizes the fundamental rights such as life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These rights are meant to ensure individuals are protected from infringements by both government and other residents. So However, laws, codes, and ordinances also play a crucial role in maintaining order and safety within a community. While some regulations might seem to protect law itself rather than an individual, they often aim to prevent potential harm or ensure the well-being of the community. So I wrote an example down. For example, traffic laws might not directly protect an individual's rights, but they're essential for preventing accidents and ensuring public safety. So in whole, it's a delicate balance, and ideally, it's laws should be enforced in a way that respects the individual's rights while promoting the common good.
Okay, so it's really, like you said, it's a balancing act. Literally, you're in the process of enforcing a law in order to protect the rights of a citizen, but also to prevent infringement upon others.
You're right.
So it's really a combined thing. One or the other name would only be half the story, wouldn't it?
Yes, right. That's really part of that comes from the thin blue line.
Yeah,
that's that balance.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good, and that's what these questions are really about. Is these are questions that are hardly asked. I don't think I've ever heard an interview like this anywhere. Yeah. And these are a collection of universal questions online, locally, and some of it from myself here. Yeah. But it's kind of informative and educational to hear an actual peacekeeper / enforcement officer who's going to pursue the office of sheriff answer these questions.
Sure.
So we're doing good, and we're almost near the end here. So now this is a toughie, because this next one, because it deals with local government itself, and there might be a situation where, what if the local government is infringing upon a resident? Okay, so I understand
huge.
It's huge.
Yeah.
But there are people locally that would want to hear your opinion on this. So I'm going to go ahead and read the paragraph. This is a shorter paragraph than the others. If the individual rights of any resident were infringed upon by an ordinance, code, or mandate issued by city or county government, its employees or its agents, would you protect the government entity, or would you step in to protect the resident and resolve the infringement peacefully if possible? How would you handle a situation like that? Because, it may or may not exist.
Right. So in short, my answer is yes. My long answer. It's going to be winded here.
Yeah, that's okay.
So it's not too bad.
But these interviews actually are very educational.
Yeah.
And I think they're important
I
to get your view on it.
I agree. So I believe if a resident's rights were being infringed upon by ordinances or codes or mandate by a city or county government, or by employees or their agents, or then I think they must be evaluated and addressed. A sheriff's primary duty is to uphold the law and protect all the rights of the residents. If a resident's rights are being infringed upon by the government of its ordinance, code, or mandate, a sheriff would likely should take these types of steps. So I wrote down, we'd have to investigate the complaint and understand the specific alleged infringement. We need to review the relevant laws or ordinances and constitutional provisions to determine if the residents' rights are indeed being violated. If the violation is found, the sheriff might attempt to mediate between the resident and the government, whatever government entity is, and resolve it peacefully. So if the mediation fails, and hopefully it doesn't ever get to that part, hopefully it doesn't ever get to where somebody's rights are being infringed upon, I would say if the mediation fails, the sheriff should or could take appropriate legal actions to protect the residents' rights, which might include ensuring warnings or citations to the government entity or the agents. So I think it's important for the sheriff to act impartially and ensure that any action taken are within the bounds of the law and the Constitution. This approach helps to maintain that, again, a balance between enforcing laws and protecting the individual's rights.
Wow, that's excellent. What, if any, and this is an open-ended question, what, if anything, would you change in the Anderson County Sheriff's Office to improve it? Why and how would you go about accomplishing these improvements?
So I think improving the Sheriff's Office involves addressing aspects of such as our community relationships. Our technology is pretty well there. So the current sheriff has definitely kept us up on technology stuff. He's great. He's always allowed us to do training. So our trainings are even the facility where we have a newer facility. So all those aspects for that's part of it is there, except for the community relationship. I won't say that we don't have it. I don't have the relationship. I know I do. I think I have a great relationship with the community, but it needs to grow, not just with me, but with the entire department, and their involvement in the community involvement. So I think that's where the growth needs to start from. So, but I always I've been big on the community relationship. So, and I highly promote any activity that brings the Anderson County Sheriff's Office and the staff closer with the public. I believe that we need to implement more of a structured environment by promoting leadership roles, such as a ranking system. To me, I think it promotes, you're promoting within, and it kind of builds that esteem or whatever, the growth in the department. They feel they have more self-worth, by having a ranking system within the facility that we don't. I mean, we have a partial one, I think. But by doing that, you're building accountability. So you're setting the accountability in line with other individuals. So now I don't have to go through every one of them saying, okay, what'd you do? What'd you do? What'd you do? And then I can just go to one. You tell me what they did.
Yeah.
So we put that in, kind of give them a little pecking order, I guess. So, but I think another biggest thing, it is a training. So it's an important chance for that needs to be happening with our jail staff. I think that's a huge area where they lack some of the training that they need. Law enforcement officers, we're required in the state of Kansas 40 hours of continuing education every year. I think a lot of us here, especially here, because Vern's always been great about allowing us to go to any type of training we have, but I think we exceed our 40 hours. We do, I think the shortest year I've had was probably 90 hours of continuing education.
Wow.
So, I'm big on learning. I've went to college. I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I'm really hesitant to going back and try to get a master's, but I don't know what I do with it, but I just like learning. I really do. But I think training, I think, is important. And for our jail stuff, but it is also ensuring that they're well equipped, not just with, their physical training like we teach. I'll teach defense tactics with them, but I think with their knowledge of the system and how things work and operate, the ins and outs of the judicial system, everything they need to know. We educate them, give them knowledge that they need, because knowledge is power. When they're doing good and they're thriving, and they're, everything's, the wheels turning, it makes everything else go smoothly.
Now I've got a clip here.
Okay.
Sheriff Mack, and I think you're aware of him.
Sure. Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and turn this, and this is as much an education for the viewer out there as much as it is to see what you think about this comment.
And so the real power source here, to answer your question, is where does the sheriff get his power? It's from we the people. And we need to get back to that.
So that's the thing. So just to talk real politic here for a moment, if the state decides that they are going to lock people in their homes when another pandemic comes around,
Yeah.
the sheriff in your county, they can choose whether or not to enforce that. And it's entirely within their right. They are not going rogue if they decide not to enforce that.
Well, not just to not enforce it, but to make sure no one else does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
that's his job.
So tell us about the state of the nation's sheriffs right now. What grade would you give these folks right now?
Well, the ones that stood up during COVID, I would give them a B, B plus, an A, depending on the degree to which they stood. Mm-hmm. But most sheriffs right now, I would give a D plus. A lot of them know better, but there's so many of them that, one, they're not educated, and they're not humble enough to want to be educated. Yeah. But that's where we come in. Look, I ask every one of you to get these. They're available on my website, and go take one to your sheriff, and ask him, have you ever heard of the only Supreme Court case in the history of America where sheriffs beat the federal government to protect the office of sheriff? In fact, the decision is known as the anti-commandeering ruling, that sheriffs cannot be commandeered by the federal government for federal bidding. And folks, that is huge, powerful stuff. Yeah. And if your sheriff has never heard of it, then you need to make sure he does, and have him read this. You need to read it first, and then get a few extra and hand them to city councilmen and mayors and county commissioners and your county attorney. He's usually the last one to admit that we should all be adhering to the Constitution. Some county attorneys have actually said that sheriffs do not have the authority to enforce and keep their oath of office. To enforce the Constitution, which is what we promised to do when we took our oath, he'll say, oh, no, you can't do that. And so.
Okay, Wes, comment. What do you think?
Wow. So I 100% agree with him. So he's absolutely right. Now, even during that era or that year, 2020, so you can see that I don't believe neither the police department, but I guarantee I know the sheriff's office as well did not enforce any of those mandates. The only things what we would ever probably enforce is if, again, we're going into businesses and stuff like that too, and we don't want those infringements. But if they mandated that's what they wanted for their restaurant or whatever, that there's a requirement to wear a mask or whatever, then they can ask to leave. Don't make somebody wear one, but they can ask them to leave. If they don't want to leave, then obviously we have some trespassing issues. So that's the way around that stuff. We would never, ever ask anybody to stay in their homes or mandate them to wear a mask or anything like that. I think it's asinine, and I'll stand against that. I think I wore one a few times, and that was really because I knew the other person had COVID, which it really didn't feel like. I don't think a mask was just a barrier for me to cough and gag inside my own mask and get sick off of it. But I think when it comes to like asking them to come to a residents to stay inside their homes, you better have a dang good reason as a sheriff to tell people to stay in their homes or mandate them to do something. There needs to be, like, we have a criminal at large or something like that. Yeah. But that's just for your safety. That wasn't for safety. That was just trying to listen to the big brother. Yeah. And seeing how far they could get with us.
I agree.
I know I completely agree with Sheriff Mack there.
Thank you so much for doing this interview.
Yeah.
And we wish you the best of luck on your campaign. And Tuesday, November the 5th, 2024.
Yeah.
Polls 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. That's according to the Constitution.
Right.
I could read, off the top of my head, some other requirements that we're not obeying, but I'm not going to get into that. That'll be another podcast. But we take about 3 minutes or whatever is required to have some last words for whatever you want the folks out there to hear about yourself and your campaign.
Right. So I'm not much on speaking on myself, but I will share this. So as a candidate for the Anderson County Sheriff's Office and a resident here for 13 years, I solemnly vow to uphold the Constitution of the United States. I believe the responsibility of this office has many working parts, and with that, it involves community trust. As a candidate, I look forward to bringing training, education, and experience to the table. I will strive for excellence, with fair and impartial policing being part of that utmost priority. With this, I will strive to have an agency that other agencies will want to mirror after. I prayed for my children and seeked heavenly advice, and I continue to do so, but always prayed for wisdom and courage, of course. I think that's kind of what got me through the growth in the law enforcement as I grew, and I continue to pray and ask for that wisdom. I wake up every morning and pray, clothe me with the full armor. Mm-hmm. It's because we need it too. But I often prayed for my kids when they were younger and they growing up. I always prayed that, Lord, lead me so I can lead them. And now here I'm in a position and I have been in a position. He led me. Now I'm leading others. So. And I just want that to be, that's my goal is, I'm leading, but I'm following another. Mm-hmm. And so, and you know who that is.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
So, now, so I pray the same, and I can, I pray that, that God can lead these men and women and me at the sheriff's office, but not just in the sheriff's office, in the community, and maybe reach others in theirs. So anyway, I would like to appreciate your votes in the November election, and I thank you, Mark, for your opportunity, and God bless.
Yeah, thank you very much, and God bless you too, Wes. And again, thank you so much for doing this and informing the public.
I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity.
Out there. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Verity Seeker signing off.